マリア、今日のお昼にお外で私たち会ったわよね。女の人に。あれは誰？
おお、何度も言ってる。ベアトリーチェ。
マリアは以前にベアトリーチェと会ったことがあるの？
うん、毎年会ってる。
Every year.
毎年？
At family conferences. Makes sense with what we learned thus far. I did have my theory before in the past game that Beatrice had a much bigger reach than the island, but no. Beatrice is stuck on this island, and she managed to reach Maria whenever they were on the island.
この六軒島のお屋敷で？
おお。
じゃわからないでしょ。そうなの？
うん。
いつから会ってるの？何年前から？
おお、わかんない。
わからない？
You don't know?
どうして？去年？一昨年？
もっと前から。
Longer than 2 years? 3? 4?
おお。
Rosa was aghast. Only the Ushiromiya mansion existed on this island, so there was no way that there were any humans other than themselves on this island. And yet Maria said that she had been meeting with that suspicious woman every year during the family conference. If what Maria said was the truth, and then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. That's insane. Is she saying that some eerie woman was at the family conference every year, and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met herself a couple of hours ago in the rose garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion which told her not to accept her existence. What in the world did I meet with earlier today in the rose garden? As the typhoon grew closer and the winds blew strong.
マリア、あなたは毎年彼女と会ってると言ったわね。会って何をしてるの？
お歌を歌ったり、魔法を習ったり、魔法陣の書き方も習うの。
そう。それはすごいわね。マリアがよく自由帳に落書きじゃない、魔法陣を書いたりしてるわよね。それも彼女に教えてもらったの？
ベアトリーチェにね、お手本書いてもらうの。ほらほら、見て見て。
Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then, she took out a notebook and started opening its pages. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were alliterated scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And while it might sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy.
ほらこれ、ベアトリーチェが書いてくれた。
On each page Maria opened, there was another eerie magic circle that had been drawn. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa realized that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. This by itself wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had drawn it. But it was enough for Rosa to understand that it was definitely someone older than Maria. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person on this Rokenjima who she hadn't even known existed. And this person had been playing with Maria during the family conference every year.
マリア、 その魔女のベアトリーチェはここに住んでいるの？それとも私たちのように島の外に住んでいるの？
おう、ベアトリーチェは六軒島の魔女だからこの島に住んでる。
じゃあ親族会議のない日にはこの島にいる？
おう、
風じゃわからないでしょ。どうなの？
おう。
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. How long has this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island, passing the time in the mansion, in a rose garden. And so, I never encountered a witch like that. Never. I think.
Mama? Mama? どうしたの？
頭が痛い。
I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. When I was a young girl, like Maria, I was very frightened of witches. So for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for something frightening. So it must be that my feeling of fear from my days as a young girl has been revived, because a woman calling herself that has appeared. She couldn't be a witch. She's obviously human calling herself Beatrice, right? Oh yes, that witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled that western envelope out of her pocket. It was the western envelope which bore the Ushiomiya crest which Kinzo used on his personal letters. And had even been sealed with a red sealing wax by the head's ring, which Kinzo held. Which meant this envelope belonged to the Ushiomiya head. In other words, it was from father. Why was a woman calling herself Beatrice holding it? And why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? Anxiety gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might release some kind of monumental disaster. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up, causing her to want to find out what was written inside before the other siblings. Using common sense, one could assume that a huge decision somehow related to father's inheritance was probably written inside. Actually, since he had given it to a woman calling herself Beatrice, there was no way that wasn't related. Did this mean that he wanted the inheritance split not between 4, but between 5, including her? I need a large sum of money, and I cannot wait long. I do feel like a sinful daughter for discussing the distribution of father's inheritance while he's still alive. However, I'm no longer at a stage where I can afford to keep everything pretty. And I even am consulting with Rudolf Nissan and Eva-Nesan in order to get some money out of Kraus Nissan. With myself in this situation, I cannot help but sense something ominous in the appearance of the witch. What could be written in here? I'm sure there must be something frightening written. Shall I first read it secretly myself? The witch had requested it be done at a dinner table, and when everyone was gathered. However, in that case, couldn't she just read it aloud at the dinner table herself? Why did she go through all the trouble of trusting it to me? Did that mean basically that it didn't matter whether I secretly read it beforehand? This is a good point. Before, I was assuming that Beatrice made Maria read the letter because Beatrice wanted to be hidden from the eyes of the humans. For enjoyment or something more complex. The reason why she made Maria read that letter because Maria is the only one that truly knew, well, as far as we knew at that point, was the only one that knew of Beatrice's existence. But now that Beatrice is fluttering her skirt, making us look at her ass, she's still making people read the letter at the dinner. Like, instead of her. Could it be because of Kinzo's magic roulette this time around? That no matter what, Beatrice herself cannot be the one to read that letter, unless she was chosen by the roulette? Maybe it is because of Kinzo that Maria was chosen to read that letter, not Beatrice. It would be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that it will be breaking my promise, but this is no longer the time to keep things pretty. It will probably be good to discuss it with Eva-san and Rudolf-san, depending on the contents. Nissan and the rest are always really good thinkers when it comes to this kind of thing. As I gulped, and put my hand to the red sitting wax. Something suddenly pulled on my sleeve, and I let out a small shriek.
何？マリアなの？驚かせないで。何？
ダメ。
え？
Maria was making the same ominous expression Rosa had seen on the witch, sending a tingle up her spine.
ベアトリーチェはママに、その手紙は晩餐で読みなさいって言った。魔女の約束は破っちゃダメだよ。
Is it really about a promise to a witch? Or is there more to it? I mean, nonetheless, I understand the notion of going against what Beatrice wants. Even if Rosa does this right here, she might be in trouble.
違うわよ。ちょっと封筒を見ただけじゃない。約束は守るわよ。ママもいつもマリアに約束は守りなさいって言ってるもんね。ママももちろん約束は守るわよ。
うん。ママはいい子。
その笑い方、可愛くないからやめなさい。
おお。
そういえばマリアも封筒をもらったわよね。中にはなんて書いてあったの？
開けてない。ベアトリーチェは開ける時が来るまで開けちゃダメって言った。だから大事に持ってる。うん。
そうマリアはベアトリーチェの言うことはちゃんと聞くのね。
うん。マリアはベアトリーチェの弟子だから、お師匠の言うことはちゃんと聞くの。
そう。
Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the light of a person other than Maria. If she broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely find out about it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple. Maria communicated with that witch.
ママは約束を守るわ。だから安心するようベアトリーチェに言ってね。
うん。伝える。
ねえマリア、ベアトリーチェとお話をしたいんだけど、どうすれば会えるのかしら。
知らない。ベアトリーチェはとても気まぐれだから、いつも突然姿を現すの。マリアからは会う方法を知らない。でもね、 つもマリアのことを見てるの。だからマリアが困っていると後できっと助けてくれるの。きっとね、姿を消してマリアの近くに隠れてるんだよ。
その笑いをやめなさいといつも言ってるでしょ。
Rosa refused to hit Maria on the head. That would have stopped Maria's laughing voice, but he wasn't able to raise the ominous color that had risen in her eyes. Rosa made a pact with herself. She swore that, at least until they left this island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter anymore. The candy fix, the candy fix. If it's not magic, then how did she do it? If it's something that can clearly be shown in front of Rosa, but not in front of Maria, and Maria can clearly see more than any human, and she's not squeamish in front of dead people, then what is it? It's like a little child performing their first magic show in front of their parents, and the child is asking the parents to close their eyes so that they can do the magic trick easily. And when the parents open their eyes afterwards, whabam! It's like real magic. That is what is making me think of the most. I think I may have something, although I don't have any evidence to it. As I said before, I was thinking it may have a connection to the parlor murder of Kumasawa, Genji, and Nanjo, since, in similar fashion, Beatrice made Maria not look at the scene by facing the wall and singing. See no evil, hear no evil. At that point, when we entered the parlor, Maria said that it was Beatrice who killed the three, and she doesn't even know how she did it. She said that. And yet, what did we find on the three dead corpses? The ice picks, the stakes. It could be that despite Maria knowing about the existence of the 7 stakes and the 72 demons and any other witch, Beatrice might be attempting to hide them so that Maria thinks it was Beatrice's doing. Maybe it was either the stakes or one of Beatrice's helpers that switched the candy mid-air. And the reason why her eyes closed was to make Maria think it was Beatrice all along. But it makes no sense. Like, Beatrice should have more power now than before thanks to her revival. A simple candy fix should be possible for her. So, if it's true what I'm theorizing here, why the need for extra help? Is it because at this point in time she doesn't have any power, like whatsoever? Nah, that can't be it. Maybe she does have the power to do so, but instead opted to be helped by one of the stakes, or the 72 demons, just to fuck with us, in case we reach this far? Like, she's testing us? I don't know. I mean, same can be said about Beatrice's reaction to the scorpion doorknob. It's not possible for her to not know of the existence of that scorpion symbol there all this time. Beatrice was aware of that scorpion last game, and she lived on this island for years for Pit's sake. But if she's testing me, for what reason? What is the reason for this kind of fuckaroo?
マリア、戻ってこねえな。またローザおばさんに叱られてるのかな。
Ever since they had met Maria in the airport, she had constantly been making a huge fuss about Halloween. But it seems she had cut loose a little too much, and acted a little too boisterous on the plane, on the boat, and during lunch, because Rosa had warned her several times. In times like that, Auntie Rosa would rarely scold her in front of people. More commonly, she would call Maria into the shadows and scold her when they were alone. So, since Maria had been called off somewhere, they thought she must be getting scolded. When they looked at the clock, they realized that it was almost 6. And they couldn't really imagine that Maria had been being scolded this whole time. Perhaps it had come time for some anime she watched every week to start, or something. She had probably just decided to stay in the mansion's parlor.
ひょっとするとバトラ様がお目覚めになって一緒に遊ばれているのかもしれませんね。
マリアちゃんにとってバトラ君は新しい友達のような感じだったろうからね。そのバトラ君と飛行場でハロウィンごっこをするのがきっととても楽しかったんだよ。
バトラもずいぶんはしゃいでたな。あいつ図体はでかくなったってのに中身は昔から全然変わらねえぜ。
そうですね。バトラ様は6年前のままでいてくださった気がします。
シャノンは6年前のバトラ君のこと覚えてるんだ。
ええ、何しろ大層お元気な方でしたから。
僕も6年前に4人で遊んだことを思い出すよ。シャノンはだいぶお姉さん風だったね。
そうだな。今よりしっかりしてた気がするぜ。
それはあの頃は身の程をわきまえておりませんでしたもので、いろいろと失礼いたしました。
いいよ、そんな礼儀云々は。仕事中はともかく、こうして休み時間に過ごす時の僕らはあの頃から変わらない仲良しで居続けたいね。
そうだぜ。使用人のシャノンとオフの時の作用は使い分けていいだろう。奴隷じゃないんだぜ。使用人の仕事をしてるだけじゃないかよ。
As she clearly said before, with Kanon's example of servant Kanon and off-duty Kanon.
私はシャノンとは、サヨとは一番古い友人だと思ってるぜ。
Aww.
ありがとうございます、お嬢様。
It seemed that Shannon understood what lurked under Jessica's words, because she had heard a little bit from Jessica and Kanon about what had happened between them. Apparently, George had also been informed about that, more or less. George approached the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky.
カノン君はまだ幼いのに考え方が少し背伸びしてるところがあると思うんです。
いや、もうよしてくれよ。まあ私も雰囲気に流されてたところはあったと思うしさ。まあシャノンたちのことを見てちょっと羨ましいとか思って気がせいていたところもあったかもしれねえな。私のことなんかどうでもいいだろ。それよりジョージ兄さんたちの方はどういう感じなんだよ。だいぶいい感じなんだろ
どうなんでしょう。
とてもいい感じだよ。
Shanna was lost for words, her face red, while George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it obvious that their relationship was proceeding so perfectly, it would make anyone envious.
焼けるぜ。ってことはシャノンもそのうち寿大社ってわけなんだ。
どうなんでしょう。私には
どうなんだろうね。僕にもわからないね。
George laughed like he was being mean, and drew closer to Shannon. It was probably the way they usually flirted when they were alone. Jessica could only smile awkwardly, and say, yes, thank you, that's enough.
僕には夢がある。それは一国一城の主になりたいというビジネス的な野望だけじゃない。生涯を共にできる伴侶と幸せな家族を築きたいという夢もある。子供は最低でも2人欲しいとか、家族で一緒にできるスポーツをしたいねとか、他にもいろいろ。そんな話をよくシャノンとはするよ。こんなことを話すといつもシャノンには気が早いですねと笑われるんだけど。
Maybe a little bit, if we are to think of Shannon here. This oddly reminds me of Ross from Friends, although I cannot say that that is a good example.
僕はこの年のうちからもうなぜか落ち着いた老後のことを考えてしまうんだよ。元気に成長した子供たちと駆け回る孫たちと、そういうものに囲まれていつまでもシャノンと2人ゆっくりと余生を送れたらなって。
そりゃ確かに気の早い話だぜ。でもなんていうのか、そのジョージ兄さんらしい話だな。
そんな家族に囲まれたらさぞ素敵でしょうね。私の思い描いていた理想の家族もそんな感じだったと思います。
To Shannon, who had been raised in a welfare institute, the harmonious image of a family was probably something she yearned after. And George, who promised that he would definitely grant that wish for her, was surely a fitting person for her to spend her life with. Shannon was an important friend to Jessica. George was surely the one most fit to entrust their friend's future to.
まあ水を差すわけじゃねえけど、秀吉おじさんはともかくエヴァおばさんとかどうなわけ？説得は大変じゃないの？
そんなことは誰も気にする必要はないよ。僕が誰を伴侶に選ぶかは誰にもはばかられない。シャノンは僕が幸せにする。それに誰の許可が？
おお、ジョージ兄さんかっこいいぜ。よくそんな恥ずかしいセリフを堂々と。昔の兄さんはそういうキャラじゃなかったと思ったんだけどな。
男子3日合わざれば刮目して待つべしさ。僕だって成長する。シャノンを幸せにするために僕はもっともっと勉強してふさわしい男に成長するつもりだよ。
It seemed that perhaps George had some kind of awareness of how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red, and he scratched his head.
ジョージさん。
大丈夫。母さんは確かにごねるかもしれないけど、僕に任せておけばいい。親族全員に君が僕の伴侶だと認めさせてみせる。
すっげえな。シャノンが羨ましいぜ、まったく。
そこまで言ってもらえて、恐縮です。
っていうかよ、私はお邪魔虫なんじゃないかって気がしてきたぜ。
If only Kanon were present. Oh wait, he is busy kissing Beatrice's shoes now.
席を外した方がいいか？
Smiling awkwardly, Jessica stood up from the bed she had been sitting on. And at that very moment, the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what they wanted, Shanna looked at the clock and was taken aback. It seemed that she had taken too long on her break.
すみません。私、お勤めの時間を忘れておりました。これで失礼します。
At the same time that Jessica picked up the phone, Shanna began dashing out of the room.
あ、シャノン。またいつもの時間にいつもの場所で。
失礼します。
もしもし、ジェシカです。ああ、ゲンジさん。はい、 シャノンは今そっちに戻ってますよ。私たちが引き止めちゃったんです。叱らないでやってください。ええ、はい。
そっか、もうじき夕飯の準備の時間なんだね。
Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen, and preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates were lined up there was 19. That number was one more than were lined up during the family conference every year.
納得できません。どうして私が直接お届けに上がってはならないのですか。
Goda-san was flaring up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was boiling over. The master enjoys having his food alone in his study, so the food must be set out in the study. Of course, this is nothing new, you understand. Goda-san would really like to set the table for the master with his own hands, as he puts his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master had imposed a strict rule that none but the servant bearing the crest of the golden eagle could enter his study. So while Goda-san could greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking into the study. Goda-san was always unsatisfied with this. Of course, he knows he's a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he has accumulated plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and he is strongly confident that he will be able to conduct himself properly, even in front of Kinzo, in a way that would not insult him. And yet, just because he's not permitted the golden eagle, he still hasn't been blessed with his honor.
それが彼のプライドをどれほど傷つけていたか想像できるでしょうか。では今夜も再びそれを蒸し返しているのかというと、そうではありません。今夜は親方様の他にもお部屋まで食事を運んでもらいたいという方がおられるからです。その人物は非常に稀な賓客らしく、当主である親方様と同格の扱いをするようにきつく厳命されておりました。郷田さんはこの賓客にぜひ自らの手で配膳してポイントを稼ぎたかったに違いありません。虚栄心のお強い方でございますから、親方様に配膳する資格はなくても、せめてそれと同格の来客には。昼食はどうしても手が開かず、カノンさんに言ってもらった。だから一年で最高の晩餐である今夜の食事をぜひ自分の手で配膳したかったのです。ですがそれを源氏さんに咎められたのでございます。郷田さんに片翼の足がないからということのようです。再び資格がないと咎められ、郷田さんの堪忍袋の緒が切れてしまったのでございます。老いたわしや郷田さん。私は物陰からこうして見守るしかないのでございます。
熊沢さん、油を売っている暇があったら食堂の準備をしてきてください。テーブルクロスは大丈夫ですか？
これは失礼を。
When it became her turn to beat the brunt, Kumasawa softly disappeared into the hole. Kumasawa does like to watch events from the shadows a lot, I've noticed. I mean, that sure is like Kumasawa. She is quite kooky and likes to gossip.
ベアトリーチェ様は親方様と全く同格のお方です。ルールも親方様のそれと同じものを尊ばなくてはならない。郷田は自分の仕事に専念し、親族の皆さんのお相手をするよう。
そのようなお客様相手に源氏さんならともかくこんな子供を生かせていいのですか？ もし何かの粗相があったら失礼にあたります。確かに彼らの年季は長いですが、しかるべきところで修行をしたことがあるわけじゃない。正直に申し上げて、お客様に接する基礎ができていないのです。
Goda spoke bluntly, even though Shana was waiting right there in the kitchen. Shana was the one who Genji had ordered to carry the food to Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted the Golden Eagle, Shana was indeed the second highest ranked. If the highest ranked, Genji, went to set the table in Kenzo's room, then it fell to Shannon to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goda's pride was always horribly injured when he was confronted with this ranking system. In times like that, he would speak out bluntly and rudely about Shana Nakano. Goda kept raising example after example of Shano's past failures, making a ruckus about how this was wrong and that was wrong. And as Shannon listened to this with her head hung in shame, she heard Kano's voice from behind her. Kano had been listening from a blind spot, leaning against the hallway side of the wall near the entrance to the kitchen. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly his way.
言わせておきなよ。最低の男だ。
It is clearly visible how much he detests both Shannon and Kano, given that both of them and Genji are Kenzo's special servants.
でも接待の基礎の勉強になるし、合田さんはたくさん勉強してるからとても参考に。
姉さんは優しいね。
それより貴賓室のお客様がベアトリーチェ様だというのは本当なの？
うん。昼食の配膳に行かされた時にあった。間違いなくあいつだったよ。
そうお元気そうだった？
Kano remembered that he and Shannon had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shannon, Beatrice was a cupid of love, who had granted her magic to recreate her relationship with George. Judging by her happy expression, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Kanon already knew. That witch had come here with a terrifying goal in mind. That vague witch, in the past only visible to them, had now walked in openly through the front door, and had revived enough that they could now carry food to her. In the past, when she had disappeared from in front of Kano, the witch had said something about how her own power was still weak. Now that the witch could appear openly like this, did that mean that she had finally returned to her former power? And she had said clearly that she had sown the seeds of love, with the knowledge that you would fail. She had said clearly that the day had finally come, when the door to the Golden Land would be opened.
シャノン、あいつは親方様と何かの怪しげな儀式をし、きっと想像もできない恐ろしいことをする。それには誰も抗えない。
何の話なの？
あいつはやってきたんだ。親方様が求めた黄金鏡の扉を開き、全てを黄金鏡に戻すために。あいつは僕に確かにそう言った。
In the past, the two of them, as furniture working for Kenzo, had been told what the opening of the door to the Golden Land meant. Therefore, even without asking a single question in response, Shannon understood everything. So, she grew deeply hopeless. Something tore at Kano's heart, as he saw her expression twist with grief.
して今になって。
だから言ったんだ。僕らは家具だって。人間の真似事なんかして恋なんかするから。僕たちの役目の終わるこの日を素直に受け入れられない。
いつかこの日が訪れることをかつては願ってた。でもいつまで経っても訪れなくて、私たちはいつまで家具として苦しめばいいのかわからなくて。だから私思ったの。安息の日なんて永遠に訪れないんだって。
僕だってそう思ってたさ。でも必ずいつか訪れるって僕は信じてた。だから僕は家具としての自覚を忘れなかったんだ。なのに姉さんは忘れた。
私が悪いのね。私が。
ああ、姉さんが悪い。
And here comes the despair that Beatrice also wanted.
姉さんさえ恋を覚えなかったら、僕たちはようやく訪れた今日を喜び合うはずだった。姉さんがくだらない未練を作ってしまったんだ。必ず去らなければならない世界なのに。
儀式は今夜始まるの？
あとあいつは僕に言った。今夜ジョージ様は姉さんに婚約指輪を贈るだろうって。
That was a fact. George should have snuck in an engagement ring in his pocket today. And surely he would hand it over tonight.
あいつは姉さんとジョージ様を第二の番の生贄に使うつもりで二人の仲をくっつけたんだ。わかる？姉さんはあいつにそそのかされた上利用されたんだよ。
そうだったの。考えたこともなかったわ。
でもあいつは言ったよ。もし今夜その婚約指輪を受け取らなかったなら姉さんを生贄に選ばないと約束した。
And in the last game, she did accept the ring. And she was one of the 6 chosen as sacrifice. I wonder if she's gonna keep her promise. Although, something tells me she won't.
僕たちが揃って黄金鏡へ行ける確率はとても低いと思う。13人が生贄になる。生き残るのは5人だけ。その中に僕たち2人が入れる確率は本当に低い。でも姉さんだけでもその約束が得られるなら確率はもっと上がる。僕はかけたいんだ。黄金鏡には救いがある。僕たちはそこへたどり着き人間を手に入れるんだ。
Huh?
そして姉さんと2人で人間としての人生を歩みたいんだよ。
Huh.
そうすれば本当の恋だってできるかもしれない。
かつての私たちは黄金鏡へ行けることを夢見てたね。そこへ行けばどんな願いでも叶う。私たちをこの苦しみから救ってくれる。そう信じてた。
However, in this ritual, only a few people, chosen by fate and chance, would be invited to the Golden Land. Everyone else would lose their life as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. But in the past, Shannon and Connell had thought that whether they reached the Golden Land or were made sacrifices, it would be all the same, because they would be released from their duties as furniture either way. So, in short, the ritual had been something that would definitely grant release to furniture like them.
僕は嫌だ。
I see. So I guess there is one more reason for why the servants, especially Kanon, were so insistent in seeing themselves as furniture. Because the only happiness they saw, the only opportunity for happiness and true humanity was in the Golden Land. Whereas till now, it has been nothing but pain. But they had to endure it so that they would reach the Golden Land. That more than likely was what Kinzo trapped them with.
これまでの辛かった分を姉さんと取り戻したい。生贄なんてごめんだ。僕と姉さんは生き残る。そして二人で黄金鏡へたどり着く。だから姉さんを第二の番の生贄になんかさせない。頼むよ姉さん。あの男の指輪を受け取らないで。それを受け取らなければあいつは姉さんを生贄には選ばないと約束してくれた。
それはできないよ。今夜の指輪はとても特別なもの。それを受け取らないことは私の心が許さない。
姉さん、儀式の生贄は魔女が気まぐれに決めることになってる。その魔女が姉さんだけは見逃すと約束してくれたんだよ。姉さんだけは絶対に黄金鏡へ行けるんだ。
You should know more than anyone else that Beatrice is one person you should definitely doubt. Kanon. You cannot say for sure that she's gonna keep her promise.
私だけ？カノン君は？
僕は魔女のゲームで十分さ。あいつの魔女なんかかいくぐってやる。僕は無力じゃない。わずかの確率を無理やり掴み取ってやる。僕たちのせいなんて所詮は仮初めじゃないか。本当の人生を始めるために僕たちは黄金鏡へたどり着こう。そして人間を手に入れよう。そうしたらさ、僕も姉さんみたいに恋が知れるかな。もう家具だからって人を泣かせずに済むかな。
Kinzo, you sure are something. What have you done to them for them to follow this crap?
カノン君。
僕はもう家具は嫌だ。絶対に人間になってやる。こんな苦しみから絶対に。
There were tears in Kano's eyes. It had taken Kano until now to notice. Shannon had been the only one to know and suffer the taste of love. And he had too. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and her painful smiles on all the days since she tried to smooth things over and brighten her mood. It slowly wrought some kind of change on Kano's heart, without him knowing it.
シャノン、さっきから呼んでいる。
Shannon snapped to reality at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Apparently, she had been called for repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. And when she turned around, Kanon had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody.
はい。ぼんやりしていてすみません。
昼食はカノンに頼んだが、本来は私の次の序列のお前が運ぶべきものだ。 ベアトリーチェ様は当家の最高の賓客だ。それ以上の賓客はいない。もう一人の親方様と思い、丁重に頼む。
よろしいですか。くれぐれも粗相のないようにお願いしますよ。経験の未熟なあなたに託すのは非常に心苦しいですが、当家のルールとあっては仕方ありません。くれぐれも頼みますよ。
God had officially agreed, but he threatened Shannon with an expression that told her that he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Shannon, too, thought that God should do it if he wanted to do it that much. But considering it as a responsibility as one who had been granted the Golden Eagle, she had to give up. Besides, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will I show gratitude? Or else grief? Or else what? I don't know. Shannon loaded the witch's food onto the serving cart and left the kitchen with a slow gait. Well then, what's it gonna be? Will Shannon accept the ring this time? Or will she refuse it to guarantee her place in the Golden Land? I mean, it's not like I myself can believe that Beatrice will keep her word on it. So Shannon should definitely be careful about that. With that being said, before we continue, let me see about collecting my thoughts here a little bit and think about a theory that I made a while back about Shannon and Kanon and the key and such. Like, if I have to think about the last game, with what we learned thus far, it doesn't really make sense that Kanon would kill Shannon for the first Twilight. And it wouldn't really make sense for Shannon to kill herself to be a part of the first Twilight, with what we learned here. In which case, there is one possibility to take into consideration. Maybe Shannon, the key, attempted to kill the first 6 so that she would have a chance at going to the Golden Land with Kanon, and accept the ring for George. The reason why Eva and Hideyoshi were still alive, so that Shannon and George weren't the only couples left. Eva and Hideyoshi were left alive for that purpose. Not just because they were in the guest house, so they were much more difficult to kill. I mean, there's that, but there's also the possibility that Eva and Hideyoshi were left alive for the second Twilight. However, when Shannon was about to kill the 6th person, whoever that was, somebody else killed Shannon then. That is, if I am to see Shannon as the key. However, if I am to think of it that way, if somebody else killed Shannon, then the condition for the first Twilight, it would definitely not be met in that case. Shannon's death was not chosen by the key, but by somebody else that isn't the key. If we are to go with the theory that Shannon is the key, then she has to kill 6 people, or kill 5 people and then kill herself. Nobody else has to factor into that. To recap, unless Kinzo ordered Kanon to kill, the possibility of him being the killer is pretty much slim, because he would not have any reason to kill Shannon at this point, with what we learned here. And if it's not under Kinzo's orders for Shannon, either she is the key, killed 5, then killed herself, which makes no sense why she would do that, or she is not the key, but was still the murderer, and was killed by someone else that night. And let's not forget that the key to the shutter where the bodies were disposed of was only known by servants, which fit the servants with the one-winged eagle. Dame da ze. Zenzen dame da ze. The person knocking was Kraus.
お父さん、今日は年に一度の親族会議です。お父さんを一目見ようと兄弟が揃ったのではありませんか。
黙れ。出ぬと言っている。源氏、そこにいるのであろう。なぜ私の指示した通りに食事をここへ運ばせんのか。
Kenzo screamed for the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus.
お食事は書斎へ運べるよう準備しております。ただ、クラウス様が今夜はどうか下へ降りていただきたいと。
お父さん、毎日とは言いません。せめて今夜だけでも家族で揃ってはくれませんか。
誰が家族か。貴様はいつから生き倒れを待つハゲタカたちを家族と呼ぶようになったのか。腐りて湧き出すウジ虫を家族と呼ぶようになったのか。
いや、あれ。
Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected.
源氏、言われた通りに食事をここへ運べ。なぜ言うことを聞かぬ。なぜ
源氏さん、後を頼みます。もうあの人に私の声は届かんね。
Kraus gave his head a small shake and quickly turned his back on the door to the study. He had only called out for his sibling's sake, knowing it was useless. After Genji watched Kraus go down the stairs, he called again for the door.
親方様、お食事を運ぶ準備はできております。南條先生の分はいかがいたしますか。
Nanjo was also in the study. Because Kinzo had strongly pestered him about resolving their long-lasting chess game, Nanjo had been Kinzo's opponent since before evening. Nanjo had announced as a doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered. In that situation, if Kinzo pestered him about finishing a chess game while he was still alive, Nanjo couldn't refuse. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had started randomly putting out grimoires that he couldn't understand, and skimming through them.
金蔵さん、盤面を前に腕を組むだけではいい一手は出ませんぞ。一つ休憩をして頭をリフレッシュしてみるのもいいのではありませんかな。黙れ。守りはこれで十分か。ビショップやナイトに隙間を突かれはしないか。
Today, Kinzo was insistent on a strong defense. Normally, Kinzo's motto was the offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite.
私も腹が減りました。ここいらで中断しませんか。それに休みなく頭を回転させておりましたから、もう頭がクラクラです。これ以上は私も最善手をさせるとは限りませんぞ。それは困る。チェスは互いに常に最善手を指さねばならん。そうでない一手は理解に苦しみ、思考を読むゲームを狂わせてしまう。それでは今日を著しく削ぐというものだ。
Kinzo sighed deeply, and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess needs an opponent. That opponent was tired and suggesting to suspend the game, so what else could be done?
確かにチェスの目的は勝利を目指すことで、互いにそのために最善手を指す。そしてそれを読み合う知的ゲームです。ですが勝利以外にもう一つ目的があることを金蔵さんはお忘れではありませんかな。なんだと？勝利以外にどんな目的があるというのか。 金蔵さんがそんなこともお忘れとは。チェスを通し親友と楽しい時間を過ごすですぞ。
参ったな。それは確かずいぶん昔に私がお前に言った言葉だったはず。これは参った。
Kinzo, who normally wore a frown, surprisingly relaxed his face and laughed. Nanja felt like he had been reunited with a close friend he hadn't seen in a long time. Aww.
そういうことです。一本取られたついでにどうです？私と下に降りて食事と行きませんかな。食後にコーヒーと一緒にカスパロフの中盤についての議論でもいかがです？
良い提案だが遠慮する。私はもうこの部屋から出られない。儀式は始まっているのでな。
そうですか。では私はお腹もペコペコですからな。下へ降りることにします。気が向いたらいつでも。
南條、ありがと
う。おや、何の礼ですかな。
お前とのチェスの決着はつかなかった。だが私が忘れていたチェスの目的はどうやら果たせたらしい。それはどうもチェックメイトと同じくらい重要なものであったらしい。
らしくもない。何の干渉ですかな。
お前が言ったのではないか。私には余命がないと。もう行け。そしてもうこの部屋へ来るな。続きは黄金鏡であろ
う。いいですが、仕切り直しですぞ。ルークが落ちてしまったのは痛手ですのでな。それでは後ほど。
ああ、後ほどな。黄金鏡か煉獄か、あるいは次の世で。
Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that. With a practiced hand, he pushed the button on the table that would release the auto lock. Then, after looking at Kinzo's back one last time, he left the study. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall.
それでは親方様、これより夕食をお運びいたします。
最後の晩餐になるやもしれぬ。味わわねばな。準備を頼む。
かしこまりました。親方様のご準備の方は万端となりましたか。
この部屋を今日まで十重旗への結界で厳重に包んだ。あれのルーレットが私を選ぼうとも必ずや弾き返す。そして生き残り黄金鏡へたどり着くうちの一人は絶対に私となる。
So I was right. This, without a shadow of a doubt, is the reason why he's trying to stay locked up in his own study. However, the mystery still stands. Why did he leave his own room and get killed? Or rather, under what circumstances did Kinzo end up getting killed? Even under his impenetrable castle.
私を冥府へ連れ去ろうとする死神どもの来訪をも拒もうぞ。